Take a moment, look at the disclaimer. This content is for educational, informational, entertainment purposes only, and nothing should be taken as a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold any securities at any time. We're here just to tell you how BTA analyzes the market, how we look at the market. This is Rod from BTA, and we are known as the middle traders. We are not going to get in at the exact bottom, and we are not going to get out at the exact top, but we will. We do make money in the middle. We are the premier analysts, the stock market masters. Let's take a look at the Major Index ETFs at the end of the day on Tuesday, 6/21/22, the end of day. Some very interesting things are starting to develop. This is going to be a part one, and we're going to do another video right after this one, and we're going to discuss some major divergences that we are seeing, and hopefully it can hold and give us the indication, a clue. We are looking for clues. We are analysts, detectives, financial detectives, chart detectives. We're looking for clues on when the bottom is going to set in, because we are looking for the market to run up to the high of the high on the date of the yield curve inversion, or at least up here to the 200-day moving average. I know I sound like a madman, but I'm not giving up on it because I believe in history. We have a daily chart right now of the DIA, the ETF that tracks the Dow Jones Industrial Average. And right now, okay, we are trying to get back above the downward trending 5-day moving average. Let's expand this. We got the downward trending 5-day moving average, which is the white line, the white moving average line. And we got the downward trending 9-day, a downward trending 21-day, and of course, the 50-day moving average, which held as resistance when we had that drop. So right now we're trying to get below get back above a downward trending 5-day moving average. Now look, today the DIA was up over 2% today. So it was a big, strong percentage gain today. But one of the things I don't like is to see low volume when the market is trying to rebound. So this is just one day. Let's see what happens tomorrow. If the market keeps rallying, trying to rally, but it's doing it on low volume, where there's not a lot of volume coming in, no good. It's telling me the large institutional investors are not buying in. So the DIA is trying to get it back above the 5-day moving average. You see last week when the interest rate on Fed Day, when they raised the interest rates, we tried to test it and we got rejected at the 5. Today we just closed right above it, but we got the downward trending 9 that's trying to turn a little bit. Volume is low. A really strong up day on low volume is not really what you want to see. Okay, so that's the DIA, the moving averages, right? Let's look at the DIA on our structural chart. Okay, let's expand that a little bit. All right, let's bring it up. Let's see if we can bring this up some. And let's expand it a little bit more. And let's zoom in. Let's zoom in on our structural chart here of the DIA. You see that? You see these overhead resistance levels right here? You see that? We traded right up to the top one at 306.28, and it pulled back, and then it actually pulled back and closed below the lower overhead resistance level at 305.26. Now 306.28 is key because that's the most recent low we made when we was coming down, making this double bottom here. Remember that the high right here we had, that was the pivot. We broke above it, but we fell into consolidation. Well, this is the second bottom, the second low. That's a key overhead resistance area. That's the 306.28. We traded right up to it. We pulled back and closed below it. The beautiful thing is, look, we found support. See that big thick red line? See that big thick red line? You see that? 295.95. That's the high going all the way back to 2020. We found support right there on Friday. Monday was a holiday. Yesterday was a holiday. Today, Tuesday, we bounced. We found support there. Kind of found support at this internal trend line. And we got back above the overhead trend line, which created the channel that prices were stuck in before. We got back above that one. But we found resistance right at 306.28. We got to see how the market is going to react in the next couple of days to that 306.28 level. Okay? Remember, Fed Chairman Powell is speaking tomorrow. He's going to be testifying. Okay? And I believe he's going to start talking around 9:30 or something like that. He'll be testifying. Okay? Well, let's see what happens when he starts speaking. So that's the DIA, right? Let's look at the guppy real fast on the DIA. And you see with the guppy, it's trying to get above the first set of faster green moving averages. You see that? Let me bring it up some and let's zoom in. It's trying to get above the first set of green, the shorter term, faster green moving averages. We're trying to get above it. Okay, the first set, the magenta line of closing prices, that is inside of the first set of green ones. But we got to come out of that. And you see up here where we tested the long-term overhead, long-term red moving averages, we found a little turbulence, resistance, and we collapsed. So we got to get above the shorter term, faster green moving averages, and then we're going to want them to start squeezing and then flip. And we want to see prices get above the longer term red. Well, right now, the momentum is still to the downside. Okay, the momentum is clearly still to the downside. Okay, clearly still to the downside on the DIA. Let's take a look at lowest on the DIA. Okay, well, we got above the red line today. Okay, we just got above the red line today. All right, let's expand this a little bit so we can see it. Okay, let's bring it over. All right, we got above the red line today, but we're waiting to see how it follows through tomorrow and the next couple of days. Okay, so lowest right now is still in the launch of an immediate downswing. We're still in a downswing on the DIA, but we did close above the red line today. Okay, but we got to see what's going to happen tomorrow. Are we going to follow through tomorrow and get above those overhead resistance levels? If we can do that and get above that 9, the next thing we got to look out for is this downward trending 21-day moving average. Don't forget this low right here, right? Don't forget that, all right? That is key. Even with lowest trying to show it want to swing to the upside, lowest is going to let us know if it actually does it, okay? But don't forget, we got that 306.28 level, that 306.28 level right here on the structural chart that we got to get above. So even though lowest is trying right now to start a new upswing, well, the price is trying and lowest is, I said that wrong. Let's restate that. Price is trying and lowest is going to let us know if it's trying hard enough. Okay? All right? So that's the DIA. Now, let's look at, and these are the daily analysis, right? We're looking at this on the daily time frame, all right? On the daily time frame. Now, let's look at the SPY. Let's look at the SPY and see what it's looking like today. So it's trying, all right? It's get above the 5-day moving average. We got that. We know we need to get above the 5-day moving average before we even start thinking about doing anything, okay? Let's zoom in. This is the daily chart of the SPY. You see right here, we just closed above today the 5-day moving average. We got the downward trending 9-day moving average right overhead, downward trending 21, downward trending 50-day moving average. But the QQQs, the SPY, what we're looking at right now, also closed up 2.35%. Very strong up day. the volume is not, it's a little low. It's not even average. Okay? Look, granted, we had triple witching last Friday, which is this day. So it was a lot of volume that came in. We give it that. But at least the volume, so to compare it to the Friday's volume, that, okay, you might say, well, that's not as fair, Sherrod. Well, that might be true. But still, the 50-day average of volume is right here, this brown line. You're well below that. All right? So what's the reason you could give it for that? There is none. All right? The volume is low, point breaking period. And the same thing for the DIA. If we go back to that one, the volume is low. All right, it's lower than Friday, triple witching, fine. But look how low it is compared to the average volume. No good. All right, absolutely no good. So we want to see volume starting to come in. Okay, so let's go back to the spot. We can see that we below the 9-day moving average, but we just closed just slightly above the 5-day. That's good. But the volume on such a strong up day, such a high percentage up day, you would want to see that volume, okay, coming in. All right, you want to see that volume coming in. Now, let's look at the SPY on our structural chart, okay? This is our structural chart with our key overhead, support and resistance level, overhead and underneath, support and resistance levels, and trend lines. As you can see right now, we opened up. We opened up today, gapped up, and opened up right above this horizontal resistance area at 371.63. That's what it needs to hold right now. If it starts trading sideways to come back down, we want to hold at 371.63. Okay, we look at this, almost to the penny, y'all. Don't let anyone tell you that these trend lines and horizontal support and resistance levels don't work. It's because they don't know how to draw them. Look at price. Stop almost to the penny of this downward internal trend line right here. Almost to the penny. And got rejected. Can we get above that? Start testing next overhead resistance at 380.54 is what we're looking for. Okay? 380.54 is key, because look what that is. That's that low from the double bottom. I'm going to reduce it some so that way you can see it very clearly. Let's reduce this. Remember that low from the double bottom? The same low that the DIA tested, right? Remember that double bottom pattern? Then we went into sideways consolidation. That's the low right there. That's this horizontal overhead resistance level, 380.54. But we got this internal trend line going right across this price level here on the internal trend line, hitting those fractals. That's where we stopped at, almost to the penny. Can we get above that and keep support at 371.63? That's the question on our structural chart here. All right, that's what we want to see. Let's look at the guppy real fast. Well, you see the guppy, right? You see it similar to the DIA. We just getting inside of the first set of green faster moving averages. The magenta line of closing price is just getting inside of there, but we have a lot of work to do. Okay, we got to get above all of the faster long-term, faster short-term moving averages. And then we got the red, longer-term red moving averages. That's right above. The red longer-term moving averages right above. The momentum is clearly still to the downside. Okay, it's clearly still to the downside. Let's take a look at Lois. Let's take a look at Lois. See that? You see that with Lois? Okay. You see that with Lois? Lois is, right now, we still have the magenta line right above price. Lois just closed above it. Can it follow through tomorrow? The MACD is still got a bearish crossover and the histogram is negative. We want to see some improvement in that. But right now, Lois is the prices are trying to get back into a swing. Lois is going to let us know, is it going to really be able to get back into that immediate launch of immediate upswing? Well, we'll see. Let's see when the blue line gets below price. The blue line gets below price, and we'll have the launch of a new immediate upswing. And then if prices ever break back below Lois, then we know it's a problem. Okay? So Lois will be the support level of all support. If she break lowest, it is all over. There is nothing to talk about. I am gone. Adios. Out of here. You got me? Lois will lead you to success. We can't lose with the stuff that Lois used. Let's look at the QQQs now, okay? So the DIA and the SPY is trying to show Lois it wants to go higher, all right? But Lois is going to let us know if it is a liar, okay? You got me? All right, let's look at the QQQs right now, the daily chart of the QQQs. Look at that 5-day moving average and that 9-day moving average. Man, don't let nobody tell you that this stuff don't work, because they don't know what they are doing. Point blank and period. You see that 9-day moving average stopped almost to the penny on the 9-day moving average. The computers are out there. They are running faster than we can think, but we know how they've been programmed. So the computer, the algorithm, is no problem for us, because we be glad when the computer kick in. The algorithms on Wall Street kick in. It's just more power and momentum for us. We're not worried about that. We know what the computer know. Look at that white 5-day moving average, that green 9-day, that yellow 21-day. Look at that downward trending 50-day. The volume was very low, well below average on the Qs today. Very strong upward move today on the Qs, 2.24% increase. Very powerful up day. Low volume, large institutional investors. Where are you? Okay. Are you picking up the jewels that I'm dropping down? Can you hear me? Do you dig me? Holler back if you do. Let me know. Just like you did when you made that ching-ching, that cheddar, when it was moving sideways right here in the collapse. We talked about it well ahead of time. Y'all hollered back at your boy, and I felt good about it. But you know this is not financial advice, because I cannot give financial advice. But wouldn't it be wonderful if it was? Wouldn't it be great if it was? What if it was? Cha-ching, ching, ching, ching. But it's not. But it's not. Okay? But that 9-day moving average, prices stopped almost to the penny. Let's look at the QQQs on the structural chart. What do we see? Okay? What do we see? Let's try to expand it just a little bit, move it up. Bingo. Bingo. We see a lot. We see you. Okay, Mr. QQQ. Here is our overhead resistance levels right here. 280.28 is this first one right here. We got above it, closed right back at it a little bit. But look at 284 right above head, right here. And you know what's very special about 224? Look at that downward trend line that's coming right there. Can we get above all that? If we do, we might come right back up to here, this red line with this 237. Is that 287? What I'm talking about, 237. What am I saying? That red line is a long-term weekly overhead resistance level right here at 287.45. If we could get above this, maybe, which is at 284.94, we might go to 287. Okay? We might go to 287. But the first things first, you got to get above this downward trending internal trend line, and you got to get above this overhead resistance level at 284.94. And where's that 284.94? What is that? Once again, just like the DIA and the SPY, that's our previous double bottom, the second bottom from the double bottom. right? Remember that? The pivot, we broke above it, consolidated, collapsed. This is our previous bottom. We just got above it today, but now you got this downward trend, internal trend line you got to deal with. We're not going to get in at the exact bottom. Okay? We're not going to get in at the exact top bottom, but we will eat off the middle. All right? So can it get above that? Let's look at the guppy real fast. Let's look at the guppy, okay? Let's minimize this. Make sure it's minimized. We don't want that problem. Here's the guppy. Same thing that we saw with the DIA and the spot. The QQQ's daily chart of the guppy. Guppy right here. The magenta line of closing prices is inside of the faster, shorter term moving averages. We got the overhead, longer term red moving averages up top. We got to get above this. We need this green, faster moving averages to tighten up, squeeze, and swing. Start spreading out. The magenta line of closing prices got to get above this. The momentum is clearly still to the downside. Okay, but are we trying to find a bottom here is the question. Let's take a look at Lois. What our girl. That's our girl. Lois is our girl. Okay? That's my girl. What's she saying? What's she saying? Well, prices tried to get above the magenta line right here. Trying to get above the magenta line. You see the resistance, the overhead resistance right here, just above that. That's that downward trend internal trend line. Downward trend, the 21-day moving average right above head. But Lois is trying, well, not Lois. Price is trying to tell Lois it wants to get into an immediate upswing. But Lois said, you got to show me. I'm from the show me state. Well, right now the magenta line is above prices. That means that the swing is down. So right now we got to see. We just broke above it. Let's see how things work out tomorrow. But look at the MACD. The MACD has crossed below its signal line, bearish crossover, and the histogram is in the negative. But let's see what happens. Are we going to get that blue line below price and Lois tell us we're in the launch of an immediate upswing? If so, then Lois will become our support level of all supports. If she break that, we are out of here. Okay? Point blank and period. All right? But are we trying to put in a bottom? Let's finish this thing off with the IWM. Well, the IWM and then the ITOT real quick. Where we going to make it fast. Here's the IWM. Okay, let's go to the IWM real fast. 2,000 small companies. Well, you see it. You see it. You see it. Okay, be careful. Here's our structural chart. But before we go there, let's look at our key moving averages real fast. Okay, and we'll leave the structural chart expanded. You see that downward trending 5-day moving average, the white line? We right below it. Okay, see that downward trending 9-day, downward trending 21-day, downward trending overhead 50-day moving average? We're right below. We close right below a downward trending 5-day moving average. We're right below it. Can we get above that downward trending 5-day moving average on the IWM? The volume did get to average volume. Okay, that's great. But the thing here is, can we get back above this downward trending white 5-day moving average? That's the question. Okay, that's the question. Let's see what happens. So now, here is our structural chart of the IWM. Well, you can see we traded up, got above the overhead resistance levels at 168, basically 09 and 168.90. So basically 168. Traded almost to this line. You see that big thick red line right there? You see that big thick red line right there? You see that big red thick line right there? That's the March 2020 highs. Right before the corona collapse. You see that big thick red line right there? You ain't gonna never forget it. I keep saying it because I don't want you to forget it. That's key overhead resistance. It was support. We got to get back above that. We tested it today a little bit, not much, but we couldn't even get above this here overhead resistance at 168. That big thick red line is at 170.56, the March 2020 highs. We can't move until she gets above that. She got to prove it to us, get above that. Let's see, the guppy we already know looks just like the IWM. The IWM looks just like the DIA. We still below the magenta line of closing prices. It's still below the shorter term faster green moving averages and the red. The momentum is clearly to the downside. Where's lowest? Well, she tested lowest today. Okay, the IWM tested lowest right here. The red magenta line is above prices. We tried to get above it and we pulled back and closed right below it. So right now it cannot seem to get above lowest. We'll see what happens tomorrow. We got a bearish crossover on the MACD and the histogram is pointing down. The momentum is clearly still down. Okay, but for lowest we still below. Unlike the rest of the major market indexes, the DIA, the SPY, and the QQQs, which they are trying to get above the downward red or magenta downward average above price. Well, what I'm talking about average, I'm sorry, downward line that's above price. The line, lowest is line that's above price, okay? The downward line above price for lowest, the red line, all right? It tried to get above that and it stalled, okay? It tried to get above that and it stalled. And we got a downward trend in 21-day average, okay? The average is the 21-day moving average and it's still pointing down. But unlike the rest of them, we cannot get above today and close above that red line. Let's see what happens tomorrow. So lowest is telling us the immediate swing for IWM is still down, okay? Now, that's pretty much it, except for the ITOT, baby. The ITOT. The total, the iShares total market, total US ETF tracks the total market. Well, we can make this very quick, all right? This is our structural chart. We can make this very fast, all right? If I raise this up, okay, let's minimize this. We just closed above the 5-day moving average, just above it a little bit. The volume was higher than average. That's great. You can see the 5-day moving average right here. We just closed above it, but we got the 9-day right above here and the 21-day right above that. So we just closed above the 5-day moving average. But the structural chart, okay, the structural chart. What do we see on the structural chart? Well, you see it, all right? You got that same low. You got that same low right here from the double bottom, the second low. Consolidated, fell apart. Well, we got to get back up there, get above that, and we got this downward trending. Well, this internal trend line, we broke above it today. We need to hold above that. And then we got the next internal trend line right here. Right, and that's coming right into the area where we have this low here, this overhead resistance area right here at 84.59. We at 83.24. So can we trend upward a little bit, break above this internal trend line right here, get back here, break above this overhead resistance at 84.59, and then get above this overhead resistance at 85.25, and maybe we can go back up here. Fill these gaps. Fill these gaps, baby. Fill the gap, ITOT. Fill it. Let's get that money. You see these gaps right here? Unfilled gaps. We will fill them because we still believe we are going to go up, back up to the high on the date of the inverted yield curve. We believe in history. Well, maybe this would be the first time that history, it doesn't happen in history, but I'm still going on the side of history. Let's look at lowest and finish this thing up. Well, lowest still got the magenta line. Okay, it's still above price. But we're trying to close above it today. But the magenta line is still there. Are we going to get the blue line below price? And lowest tell us we are in the launch of the immediate upswing for the ITOT. Well, if it does, then lowest becomes the support of all supports. If we break that, we are out, baby. We are gone. All right? So you see it. You see it on the daily chart right now. Lowest is telling us that the DIA, the SPY, and the QQQs are trying. Okay? They are trying. But lowest is going to tell us when it's right. We can't lose with the stuff Lois used. I will see you in the next video.